You refer to the prophecy of the one who will bring balance to the Force. You believe it's this boy?
He can see things before they happen.
He can help you.
The Force is unusually strong with him.
He was meant to help you.
Anakin! Tell him to take off!
Will I ever see you again?
What does your heart tell you?
Are you sure about this? Trusting our fate to a boy we hardly know?
Anakin Skywalker, meet Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I sense much fear in you.
The boy is dangerous. They all sense it. Why can't you?
Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
Hey gang, welcome to another exciting Detour episode of the Grand Circle Tour podcast. I'll be your captain today, Captain Stan Solo, which is very appropriate because today we're talking Star Wars. And I have just my favorite co-host with me today, Jason. Jason, how are you today?
I am fantastic, Stan. Happy Life Day.
Yes, happy Life Day. Just about in 2 more days, I guess we could call it Life Day because it is going to be the 20th anniversary of Episode 1, the movie that did not start it all, but the movie that started the rebirth. Or did it? I would say the special edition started the rebirth. What would you say?
I don't know. For me, I think the rebirth started in the 90s with the Timothy Zahn novels.
Yeah, that would be a good one to call it. I think as far as the movies go, I think Lucas was testing those water with the special editions first. And then that did very well. So that is what I think he kind of went, okay, we could do this thing.
Yeah. I remember going to see A New Hope and Empires 3 times each when the special editions came out 22 years ago now.
Oh, I know. You know what I did? I had a newborn. My daughter was like less than 1 year old. And I was off that day that the tickets went on sale. So I went to the local mall where the theater was first thing as soon as it opened, just to kind of find out when this is before the internet. This is before you can go online and get tickets. You have to actually physically go and buy tickets. And I went there to see what time the box office opened. I figured I'd get something to eat and then, maybe go home. I wasn't too far from the mall. The line was already there. The people were already in line for the special edition when that one came out. And so I got in line. It was like 7 a.m. Tickets, I think, went on sale like 1 p.m. or 12 noon, somewhere around there with a newborn in a little bassinet.
As long as you're not the person who takes a newborn especially, into a theater.
No, I didn't take her into the theater, but I did have to go change her diapers a couple of times, and the people behind me went in front of me, watched the line, and she was kind of the highlight of our area of the line. But we're not here to talk about the special editions. We're here to talk about Episode 1. And do you remember where you were when Episode 1 came out? It was the same type of thing. Tickets went on sale first, and then I think it was a week later after tickets went on sale that the movie actually came out.
It's funny. We were talking about this before we hit record, and I was 23 and had just graduated college. So my memories from that time are kind of fuzzy.
Yeah.
I know I was there during that time. I just couldn't really tell you a whole lot of what was going on.
Okay. I remember. I had 2 kids by the time Episode 1 came out, and I remember getting up, I think it was like around 2 a.m. to go get in line for tickets that were going to go on sale at noon. This is to buy the tickets. This isn't to see the movie. And the first showing was at midnight, and the second showing was at 12:30, and the third showing was at 1. But that's how the theater staggered them. And they went pretty much around the clock for a couple of days like that, showing Episode 1. I believe the theater had like 7 screens and 6 of them were showing Star Wars Episode 1 when it came out.
Yeah, I remember that. There was all day, all night. Most of the screens were Star Wars.
Yeah. So I got in line. People were in line like 2-3 weeks ahead in tents and whatnot. I wasn't doing that, but I did get up very early. I think it was like 2 a.m. I got to the theater at like 2:15 and got in line for the new, and I wasn't able to get the midnight showing. The midnight showing sold out, and I ended up going to the 12:30 showing, the second showing, which is just as rambunctious of a crowd as the 12 o'clock crowd. And in the end, it worked out for the best, because the people that were in the midnight showing, the film broke in the same theater partway through, and they had to stop the film and rethread it or whatever. And yeah, those things happened back then, people. And
like the Kaiser Chiefs SAG, I predict a riot.
Yeah, they weren't too happy. I think they got free tickets to go again or something like that. But yeah, so I went to the 12:30 showing, and with a bunch of buddies, and it was an event for sure. I left loving the movie. I was so excited to see Star Wars back in the theaters, and I think you had a different impression after seeing it the first time.
Yes, I had an entirely different reaction than you. I went opening night, and that was the last time I saw the movie until last week.
Holy cow!
So watching it again, it was like watching it was literally like watching it for the first time. It was a brand new movie to me.
Okay. We'll have to get into your thoughts to see if they changed at all. I always did like episode 1, and I couldn't understand the hate that followed it, and I really felt bad for the actors, because a lot of them had problems in their personal life from the
I've heard Natalie Portman say people wouldn't hire her after this. She went off to get roles.
Yeah,
because they thought she couldn't act.
Yeah, she had a pretty successful career after she won an Oscar and 2 Golden Globes.
But watching this, I watching this last week, I kind of could see how it was impossible to follow up on the original trilogy.
Yeah,
because this is a great movie. I really enjoyed it this time around. Having been one of the children, I was 2 when the first one came out, so I grew up with Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
I think our expectations were way too high. I think maybe we were all a little hard on Lucas, because I watched this time and went, I would give this movie a solid 7. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it is, and it's not my favorite Star Wars movie by any stretch of the imagination, but I absolutely love this movie. If you listen to the audio commentary on the Blu-ray multi-pack that came out, that's what I have. I have every version. Who am I kidding? So when you listen to the audio commentary on the Blu-ray of the complete saga, which is no longer the complete saga, the first thing George Lucas says on disc 1, episode 1, he comes out and he says that people have to realize that this is only 1/6 of the film. And yes, the film stands on its own, but it's only part of a story. And this isn't the ending of the saga. This is just a warm-up. Was the way it's a very something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he starts off saying, and he's exactly right. I mean, I'm not sure what people were expecting from this movie, and man, people were expecting a lot, and so were merchants. Do you remember the stuff that was for sale at restaurants?
I remember everything being for sale everywhere.
Yeah, KFC, Taco Bell, and Pizza Hut were the major sponsors. And they're all under one umbrella. They're all owned by the same company, for those of you that don't know. And Pepsi was the other one. And they had Pepsi cans in grocery stores. Taco Bell, KFC, Pizza Hut had all these different toys you could get, a different one each week. I remember KFC had toppers on their buckets that was actually a Star Wars Episode 1 Frisbee that you could use afterwards as a Frisbee. It wasn't just a cardboard thing. It was like a foam plastic. They were selling special cups with 3 big toppers that would fit on top that looked like an oversized action figure that would fit on top of the cups at the restaurants. I think each restaurant had 2 of those. Each restaurant, I think, had like 8 different figures or toys you could get. And guess who got them all?
So I have to ask, do you now have an ulcer that you've named Episode 1?
Pretty much, yeah. That's yeah. Having Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, and KFC twice a week each.
Oh, that sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, it not only did my belly not like me, my wallet didn't like me, my MasterCard didn't like me. But my MasterCard liked me, I guess. But
I think my body would have hated me with a passion at that point.
yeah, it got to be a point where like, do I have to buy the Happy Meal to get this thing?
Wait, what am I saying?
You're the only one buying them.
So what am I saying? I was 23 out of college. That's probably all I ate every day back then.
Exactly. That was probably all you ate. Yeah.
Like I had Taco Bell down the street, and that was like every other day.
And then Toys R Us. Every Toys R Us in North America had these massive, massive Episode 1 displays of every action figure, and they pumped out those action figures like junk bonds. And there are just some of the displays that I've seen afterwards online. Like I said, back then there was no real online. Very little people were on the internet back then. I was just getting into it, and these displays were amazing that they had in these Toys R Us. The first thing when you walk in, I know I went to my local Toys R Us and bought 1 or 2 or 3 of each of the figures, and now I got Apple boxes piled up to the ceiling of these Star Wars figures still in their packages that are worth less than my hair on my head, which isn't very much hair on my head.
Well, passengers, you can't see. Stannis got these really two really cool Phantom Menace figures behind him that you just got at Celebration, right?
Yeah, those were the I'm such a gullible. They were available at Star Wars Celebration only, and it was Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Maul with the original Episode 1 packaging. I mean, I have the original figures of these somewhere in a box, but it was like I won the lottery to get the opportunity to purchase them, so I'm going to plop down my whatever it was, $40, $60, I can't remember what they were, to buy these 2 figures. And now they sell them online at the Hasbro site.
That's what happens with all this stuff. Passengers, you can't see it, but Stan, you can see it. Everything behind me is Doctor Who.
Yeah, exactly. Well, everything behind me is, well, no, I shouldn't say that. I got NASCAR and everything, hockey.
Yours is much more diverse than mine. Mine has just one thing.
Yeah, I got Muppets and Star Wars and Disney and Jaws and King Kong and Planet of the Apes. I get everything going behind me. But let's talk about Episode 1 a bit more. What I thought was really fun watching this, I watched it this morning just to kind of, because I haven't watched it. It's been a couple years since I watched it. I remember a few years back, it's been 2003, I think was the last time I watched Episode 1, because I remember it was May 1st, and it was before The Last Jedi came out. I watched all 6 movies in one day for May 4th. And so that was been the last time that I watched Episode 1, to be honest. And it was cool seeing the 20th Century Fox logo at the beginning of the movie. I kind of miss that with the Disney era of films. I mean, it's just a small thing.
No, I get it, because they're on the soundtracks, and especially when you grow up with it, that's the opening bell of the movie. Yeah. And even the THX sound at the beginning, the Blu-rays don't have it, but the DVDs have it. At the beginning, they have the THX thing, And I kind of missed that having that. Do the THX. Do the THX again.
I'll find it. I'll find a YouTube and put it in.
No, you got to do it. So I'm going to make that a sound clip.
Remember when THX theaters were a thing for 15 minutes?
I think I was there for the second of like 13 minutes.
Yeah. But yeah, so I thought that was cool going back and watching it again. And for our passengers who haven't watched it in a long time, I really suggest you sit down and watch it again with a fresh state of mind, kind of like the way Jason did. I think that's the way to do it. Like Jason hasn't seen it in 20 years.
I hadn't seen it since opening night, almost 20 years ago to the date from this recording.
Yeah,
and I couldn't. I had to buy the Blu-ray because it's not streaming anywhere. Thanks, Disney. But no, I sat down, put this on, and I really enjoyed it. And I was wondering how much of that is time and age, because it's 20 years later. There have been 6 Star Wars movies, 3 animated series. One of them, The Clone Wars, being the second greatest animated series of all time, which I guess for me fixed all my problems with the prequel trilogy.
Yeah, I could see that. Especially if you're a fan of The Clone Wars. There's a lot of touchbacks to it, especially like the battle droids and the Jar Jar series in The Clone Wars. Kind of
Well, I was one of the people that wanted Jar Jar's head on a spike 20 years ago, but he's a great character in Clone Wars. So when I watched it this time, like I didn't mind him at all. I thought he was great. Him and the rest of the Gungans, they kind of, for me this time, they were like Roger and Jessica, where you had the cartoons in the live-action movie.
Mm-hmm.
So they were kind of like the cartoons of the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the Gungans would kind of be like the Gungans were fine as a whole.
Yeah.
I mean, Boss Nass is a great character. All the soldiers were fine characters. I like it when the Jedi come to the Gungan underwater city, and I'm not sure if they're moving away because it's Jar Jar. Like you see all the Gungans sort of slowly back away from them when they first come into the city. I don't know if they're backing away from the Jedi or if they're backing away from Jar Jar.
See, I thought we were backing away from Jar Jar.
That's what I thought too. Now, when I listen to the audio commentary, George Lucas says they're backing away from the Jedi.
One of the cool things about watching this now, because we hadn't seen the Jedi growing up. We had seen Luke and Obi-Wan and Yoda, but to actually see the Jedi and to see people who fear the Jedi and why they should, to see them at their power.
Yeah, exactly.
So much great world building in this.
Oh yeah. And do you remember what the very first line? I'm not counting with the Trade Federation of the major character. The very first line of a major character in this movie is.
I have a bad feeling about this.
Yeah, I thought that was a cool thing to put in for the very first line. I completely forgot about that until I watched it again.
Okay, so while we're talking about Jedi, this is something I noticed this time around, and it really hits you hard in this one, that you see the Jedi were the cause of their own downfall. There's a line where they're talking about there couldn't be Sith. We would feel it. It's like their arrogance is what got them killed, and they set it up right at the start.
Yeah, exactly. And as you watch the three films, you see it. There are little cracks in their armor more and more happening. And that's a prime example of one of the cracks in the Jedi armor is their arrogance, for sure. We were talking about the Gungans in the underwater city. Now, the thing I never understood is, okay, so you have the Jedi mind trick Boss Nass to give him a BOGO to escape underwater. Why do the Gungans' boats or submarines look like fish? like prey?
I don't know, but those are some really cool looking ships.
They're amazingly cool, but you would think they would find a different way to propel it than something that would attract every predator fish.
Right, you would think they would make their ship to look like a predator, not prey.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like, man, that's a tasty looking fish. Like, why do they have that big long tail at the end propelling it? Like, I didn't understand that then, and I don't understand it today. Like,
I don't know, but I loved the whole underwater world. It was such a great looking city.
Yeah. And then after they leave the Gungan city, they go to the land of Naboo, and that's where they meet Queen Amidala and Padme. Now, are you able to tell when Padme is the queen and when Padme is she ever the queen?
I could not tell. It wasn't towards the end that I started to question, was that Natalie Portman under all that makeup?
Yeah, like I think there's like one scene where it's Natalie Portman under all the makeup, and I believe it's later in the movie when Anakin comes in to say goodbye to Padme, and she's getting ready to go to the council.
Yeah.
I think that's Natalie Portman, Padme, the real queen, at that point. And Anakin's pickup line is so cringeworthy. Are you an angel? What's that?
Yeah.
You're an angel?
Are you an angel? That was cringeworthy then. It was cringeworthy today.
There's only two things in this movie that didn't work for me, and Anakin is one of them, because he was just way too opey.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's kind of something Spielberg and Lucas have always done. I mean, Anakin, I could have easily heard Anakin going, "No time for love, Dr. Qui-Gon." It would have been cool if you'd seen a hint of the sociopath, even as a small kid. Like there's
exactly
there.
Now I'm no casting agent, and I don't pretend to be one. But if I was a casting agent, do you remember The Sixth Sense?
Yes.
That came out the same year as Episode 1. And the little boy that was in The Sixth Sense, Haley Joel Osment, would have been...
Yeah.
He would have been a much better Anakin.
I'm not saying Jake Lloyd did a bad job. He's a kid, and he did exactly what he was told to do. He's fine. It was the character itself. There just should have been something there where you could see how this kid could get darker and darker, like maybe how a life of slavery had affected him, and how no matter what, there's this dark seed that's always going to be there.
Yeah, he needed more than just sand to be angry. That was his big pet peeve, was sand. Like, come on, George. Now, when they're on Tatooine and they're meeting Anakin, I'm sure you know about this, or if you don't, I'll let you know. When they're at Watto's junk shop, there's some hidden Easter eggs in that section, and one of them is the escape pod from 2001: Space Odyssey, is in the background.
No, I didn't see that.
Oh, you didn't see it? Okay, yeah. It's when they're outside of Watto's shop, and they're discussing how much it's going to cost for these parts. In the background, you can clearly see. And it's all rusted and beat up, and it looks like it's been outside since they filmed 2001: Space Odyssey. And I guess my question is, now did they go out and look for that pod and go, we want that pod in there as a tribute to 2001: Space Odyssey? Or were they out buying junk scrap to film this movie, and they go to this place, and one of the guys there happens to have this pod from 2001 and goes, oh, by the way, this is the pod from 2001. And they went, hey, that'd be cool to put in the movie. What do you think it is? Do you think they actually look for something like that, or do you think
I'm going
to
guess... They
just happen upon it and they go, yeah, that'd be cool. We'll put that in.
I'm going to guess something they found and put in, kind of like the way they took the Flight of the Navigator ship from MGM Studios, repainted it, and threw it on top of a building in Tomorrowland.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Oh, we have this. Let's just kind of put this in here somewhere.
Yeah, and then we can tell people that, look, we have this awesome ship here, and it's from Flight of the Navigator. I think that's what they do. That's how I feel it is. I don't think that they go out hunting for the pod from somebody's backyard in Oklahoma and ship it all the way.
Unless the set designer really wants to put it in there. Like, if it was me, I'd slip it a TARDIS.
Yeah,
somewhere in the background, but that's just me.
And the set design is something that really bothered me in this movie too. Like, I said,
really?
There were so many little things that just kind of took me out. In Anakin's bedroom, for example, in the background, there's a trackball, spray painted silver trackball game. And every time I see that in a photograph, or every time I watch the movie, we had those in grade 3, and ours were red and blue, and they took one and they painted it silver and hung it on Anakin's wall. It just doesn't, there's 2 different versions of it, actually, one hanging lower and one hanging higher. And those little things kind of bother me.
Can you put a picture on the page? Because I will not find it unless you point it out.
Yeah, sure. And even in Shami's kitchen, she has a bunch of hinges hanging in her kitchen. And I think that's supposed to be futuristic kitchen equipment. But they're clearly hinges from an old dresser or an old cupboard. Like honestly, why you have this in your kid?
These are desert slaves. These are desert slaves. This may be like the best Goodwill find they can get.
I use these hinges to squish carrots with them. I don't know. It's just these. I know I have this one friend that he's a huge Star Wars fan too, and I think it was Rogue One when it came out, and they're in the trailer. You could see a zipper visible on one of the actors' costumes, and he went like on Facebook and they have zippers in Star Wars now. That's not a thing. And I guess when you look back, there is another example of a zipper being there. There was another.
Hey, no one left a Starbucks cup out.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, or nobody was wearing none of the guns had watches on, or Timex watches on, or anything like that.
There were no modern cars parked in the background.
Yeah. The other thing that I really liked when Padme tells Boss Nass that she's the queen. How the queen's talking, and then Padme says, "No, I'm the queen, Amidala," and she steps forward. I really like the look that Qui-Gon Jinn gives Obi-Wan at that moment. He kind of looks over at him and gives him kind of like a what the this
Okay,
type of look.
I have a thought about that because that was one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie. Because
Yeah, I love that scene.
definitely see where Leia gets it from. I love Padme coming out going, "We don't have time for this. I'm the queen. I'm exposed. Here, I'll get on one knee if that's what it takes. Let's get the job done."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's an amazing. I love that scene, and the whole. Even Jar Jar has a good look on his face when he finds out about this. He takes kind of a double look at her, like, "Who are you?" And everybody kneels, and then Jar Jar realizes that I guess I should kneel too. I've been buddies with this Boss Nass for I don't know how long. He kicked me out of the country, but I'll kneel too.
Probably just best at that point. Go win in Rome, kneel like everybody else.
Yeah. Ben Burtt did the sound design in this movie, and he did an amazing job.
That's one of the things I noticed watching it with the speakers on was how much it sounds like a Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't change anything. You could hear stuff from the original trilogy brought back. And the use of practical effects in this, it's not as CGI as I remembered. This is a great looking movie.
Well, they said that when I was watching with the audio commentary, apparently there's very, very few scenes that they didn't touch at all. And one of them is they have a vent with when they're at the very beginning of the movie when they pump the gas into trying to kill the Jedi, and they hold their breath. Whatever, they fill up the room with gas. That shot of the gas coming into the room, the vent, that was
okay. That's one thing that's one area they may have messed up because they can't breathe. But later on, they're on the planet like, oh, we just happen to have these breathing apparatuses in our pocket. We could have.
I know exactly. That's exactly what I thought of. Like, you got those breathing apparatuses. Why do you just?
Yeah, unless it's like the rebreather from Thunderball, where it's use once and throw away.
I guess so. And it's a good thing they didn't use it when the gas was coming in because they wouldn't have had it to go to the underwater village. But I love the sound of like Padme's blaster, that kind of higher pitched sound.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And the entire pod race, the sound in there, it couldn't be better. The sound effects that they had. There's no music throughout that entire pod race scene, or very little music.
I didn't notice that until the second time I watched it, because it's such an exciting scene to watch. You get so into it. You don't realize it's like a real race. You're not hearing anything but the noise of the race.
Yeah, and the Sabula's engine rumbling. It sounds like a Harley that needs a tune-up. Kind of.
Padme's ship has a great sound. It almost sounds like there's propellers as it's coming down.
Yeah, and you know when it lands on Coruscant, it just hits that land. It's a really loud, like a crack type of sound. That's another practical sound effect, and that's a sound effect of a glacier cracking.
Really?
That Ben Burtt had. Yeah, they see. George said he wanted like a different sound of the ship landing. You know, it's kind of like a loud boom with a crack attached to it. And yeah, he said that was. If you know anybody who's been on one of the Alaska cruises and they've been up to Alaska and they've heard they have been lucky enough to hear one of the glaciers cracking, that's the same sound of the ship landing.
Huh.
Yeah. So next time you watch it, that's something to listen for.
Well, I had to buy the Blu-ray, so I'll be watching it again. Here's a question I have for you. Maybe you can explain it as our leading Star Wars expert. How come no one in Star Wars has a fear of heights? There's a scene where her ship lands on a platform that's like 10 miles in the sky above Coruscant, and they just kind of step off like it's nothing. And you see this in Star Wars time and time again, like when Han gets killed and it's on the narrow 1 foot wide bridge that's a mile long. How come no one in Star Wars gets vertigo or a fear of heights?
Good question. I'm trying to think if there's ever a character that you never
see anyone afraid of falling to their death.
Yeah, no, I know. And a lot of people fall to their death in Star Wars. It's that's what the Wilhelm screen was invented for.
If someone was smart, they would invent guardrails in that universe. And
yeah, there's no guardrails. The Death Star doesn't have any guardrails. Guardrails don't exist.
The entire Star Wars universe is a floating death trap.
Yeah, you know what they need is they need someone to invent guardrails. That, and the other thing they need to invent is lightsaber straps, so you can attach your lightsaber to your wrist. Those are the two things that need to be invented in the Star Wars universe.
Let's talk about the lightsaber fighting, because, and I wish I'd seen it this way back then, but to actually get to see Jedi at the top of their game, lightsaber fighting Sith, what a cool scene. And my favorite moment was when they're fighting Darth Maul at the end. Like, there's no words spoken. You can tell that these two characters have been fighting together long enough that, like, they don't need words. They just can predict each other's actions and take on this one opponent.
Yeah, exactly. And I like the scene with the where those red razor curtains kind of close when they're on. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
They have, like, their Obi-Wan gets separated. He falls because there's no railing.
Oh, the energy curtains. Yeah.
He gets separated, and then so the Maul kind of runs away, and these curtains, and they all get separated between these kind of laser walls.
But I love Maul, like a snarling beast in a cage, where Qui-Gon,
and he's like, whacking at the thing with his lightsaber and his and Qui-Gon goes into meditation, sits down, relaxes, collects his breath, and Obi-Wan paces a bit, I think, from his inexperience, and he doesn't, do the meditation thing like Qui-Gon does. He's more anxious to get going. I love that scene.
Yeah. Such a great character moment with nothing being said. Now, I wanted to ask you, because this was Qui-Gon's movie. Qui-Gon is such an awesome character. I think he gets completely overlooked by being in this one. If I wanted to go read a good Qui-Gon book, what would you recommend?
Well, I don't really read the books that much, to be honest with you. I used to read them all pretty much up until episode 1 came out. I think the last book I read was episode 1. It's the last novel I read. I know they have the Qui-Gon comic books that came out afterwards. That kind of follow him as a younger Jedi or training with Obi-Wan. I'm guessing. I don't really read the comic books either. But that's what I would go for myself, is the comic books.
Because he's a character who has so much compassion that when the movie's over, you really kind of wonder what would have happened to Anakin if he'd been raised by this compassionate father figure and not the older brother figure.
Well, yeah, that's just it. And that was kind of part of the downfall, is that Obi-Wan wasn't ready to take on an apprentice.
No, and I kind of watching watching it now, when Obi-Wan tells Anakin at the end, "I failed you, Anakin." It's like, yeah, you did, but maybe you were failed by the Jedi Council.
Well, the Jedi Council's mixed. They're a mess. Let's face it. But that scene, what I was talking about with the laser door curtain things, you could see how Qui-Gon goes to meditation state, and Obi-Wan paces around. How Qui-Gon is more ready to take on an apprentice just from that scene alone than any other scene. Like, Obi-Wan he's good, but he's not ready to be teacher good.
Yeah. Obi-Wan's a great Jedi Knight, but maybe not ready to be a master.
Yeah, exactly. And you could see that just from that one little scene. Then, did you notice the way Darth Maul ends up killing Qui-Gon? How he takes the double-bladed lightsaber and hits him in the forehead with it, and then as he goes back, that's when he stabs him with the lightsaber, with the double-bladed lightsaber.
Yeah.
That is the exact same move in the Clone Wars when Obi-Wan and Darth Maul fight in the Clone Wars. That Darth Maul tries on Obi-Wan, it ends up being his downfall, because he goes to use that double-bladed lightsaber to hit Obi-Wan in the forehead. Obi-Wan sees it coming because he already seen him use that same move with Qui-Gon, learned from that, was able to avoid it, and that's when he kills Darth Maul.
Okay, I
in the
haven't
Clone Wars
seen
movie.
that yet. It's in Rebels,
Oh,
right?
sorry. Spoiler alert, Jason.
No, it's in Rebels. Because it's an older Obi-Wan.
Yes. Okay.
And yeah, I've just started watching Rebels.
Okay. Well, spoiler alert. When you get to that scene,
you just spoiled it for any listeners who haven't watched it yet.
well, it's been out for several years now. I think that
I think at this point, if we're talking about episode 1, spoilers be damned. It's 20 years later.
Yeah.
I think at this point, come on. I think all of our listeners have seen Star Wars.
I think at this point,
and if you haven't, and we ruined it for you, send a hateful email to Stan at McDuckIndustries.com.
I think that at this point in time, or maybe just I've seen every Star Wars cartoon and animation and movie. I don't know. I know there's a few Star Wars fans out there. There's a couple out there that have seen everything as well.
I think there's very few Star Wars haters in our community. I think there's less haters than there are lovers.
Oh yeah, I think so too. But yeah, if you well, when you get to that scene, pay attention to the move that Darth Maul makes.
I'm gonna pull it up on YouTube when we're done.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. It's been on YouTube. It's been on for a couple of years now.
It's not new.
Yeah, no. In fact, I think it came out right around the same time Star Wars Celebration did 2 years ago, which is over 2 years now.
It's been how long has Resistance been on?
1 year for Resistance. So yeah, because they weren't talking Resistance at all during the last Celebration. So I think Rebels was going into its final year.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyways, it's getting up to 2 years now, so I think it's free. It's free to talk about.
But if we ruined it for you, emails to Stan.
Yeah. So Qui-Gon's gone. He's no longer Qui-Gon gone. He's gone Qui-Gon. I don't know what I'm saying, but and they have his funeral. And so, you think you got, a strong Jedi having a funeral. There'd be Mace Windu there, and Yoda would be there, and none of the Jedi are there other than Obi-Wan, because he just happened to be in the neighborhood. What's up with that? Like, that seemed kind of weird to me.
I thought, maybe I'm remembering it wrong. I thought Yoda was there.
I don't remember seeing Anakin was there, because he was on Naboo, but
I don't know, but I loved Palpatine at the funeral. You forget that Palpatine is one of the greatest Star Wars characters ever. And going back and watching this one and kind of seeing, it's not just a long game. This is a lifelong game he's playing here. And he's manipulating everyone on every side.
Oh, exactly. Like when you think about what he was able to achieve by having the droid army in his back pocket, as well as the clone army, and controlling both sides,
the Senate and all the influence.
Yeah. Talk about he was an amazing villain as far as that goes. But he was at the funeral.
I will say it proved my point. Palpatine proves my point that I would never want to rule the world. There's way too much paperwork and admin involved. You never get a day off to enjoy it.
No, he doesn't. He's very, he doesn't take days off, that guy. You could tell. Running two sides. The ending music, the celebration, where they have the trumpets playing and the big parade coming, and the guns are coming into the city, their army are coming into Naboo City, and fireworks are going and music is playing. John Williams does something here that is beyond human. The music that John Williams creates for this ending. As you know, like nearly every Star Wars character has their own soundtrack. Like Luke has his own theme music, Leia has her own theme music that plays in the background, and if the two characters go together, he'll often intertwine their music type of thing. You got the opening soundtrack, you have the Force has its own soundtrack. So the Emperor Palpatine has his own soundtrack as well. And it's kind of a very dark and ominous, kind of a low bass sound. So during this closing ceremony, where they're lifting up that big ball of glowing orb, Boss Nass holds it in the middle, and everybody's celebrating and they're cheering and they're la 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 la, and they kind of have Palpatine standing there, you can hear Palpatine's soundtrack playing in the background a little bit. If you listen very closely, you can hear it, that boom, 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 going along with the celebration music. And it's the creepiest thing when you hear it, because it's like, yay, we all won, we all saved the universe, and we're all happy, and nobody is, we have a new leader, and he's from Naboo, and not only is he the leader of the planet, he's the leader of the entire universe, and he's the most evil man alive. Everyone's celebrating. And they're like, wait, what? He's evil? What's that sound? Why is that music playing?
I have been listening. I bought the soundtrack last week on iTunes. I've been listening to it. I've been listening to this and nonstop Sleeping Beauty for next week's Detour. So I've just had Phantom Menace or Sleeping Beauty to listen to the last 2 weeks.
It is a great soundtrack.
It's a fantastic soundtrack, and just for a fun experiment, I made a playlist in my phone where I put this soundtrack in there with A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, and I put it on shuffle, and it totally works.
For which one? Empire?
I took this one, Empire and A New Hope, and I made a playlist in my phone of all three soundtracks. I took Return of the Jedi out, switched it with Phantom Menace, and I put it on shuffle. And it's funny, those three soundtracks together kind of work better than the original trilogy.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Soundtrack. This is a great soundtrack. It was $9.99 on iTunes. It's a fun listen. It's a great listen. There's a parody video, and you should not watch it before listening to the score. Someone took the Duel of Fates and applied lyrics to it. So every time I have my headphones in and I'm listening to it, I hear the lyrics. Corn on the cob, Xena.
Oh, that's funny. The choir in Duel of the Fates is what makes a soundtrack. That's the highlight of the soundtrack for me.
Okay, so before we wrap up, there's two things I want to hit about this movie.
Yeah.
One that still doesn't work for me, and one that really works for me now.
Okay.
I remember the time watching the movie, and I was so enraged at the thought of Darth Vader built C-3PO as a child. And over the years, I've applied the headcanon that, 3PO got kidnapped so many times during the Clone Wars that Anakin had enough and put a GPS tracker camera in his eye so he could keep an eye on his droid. And so 3PO is an unwitting spy for Darth Vader. It's an unknowing spy for the Empire. And this is my headcanon. So I have this image in my head of like Darth Vader in his meditation chamber board. It's like, I'll pull up Spacebook and see what 3PO's up to. He does that every now and then. And the one day he does it, he goes, son of a bitch, he's with that princess.
Vader's watching on his iPad.
Yeah. But the midi-chlorian thing, I still can't make it work, because there's no way you can explain it without it sounding like the stronger your STD, the better your superpowers.
The more...
Don't explain the magic away, just let the magic be magic.
Well, and not only that, like kind of growing up, we always felt that we could learn the Force. I mean, we couldn't. We knew we couldn't, but we felt like anybody could have the Force.
It's a mythical
and now you have to have these midi-chlorians.
Binds us.
Yeah, exactly. It binds everyone. It binds you, binds me, it binds the tree, the rock.
Yeah, no, it turns out it's just bacteria in your blood.
Yeah, exactly. And whoever has the most of this bacteria is or the most strongest of this bacteria is the. I like the line where Qui-Gon's explaining it to Anakin, and Anakin goes, "I don't understand, sir." Don't worry, Anakin. Neither does anybody in the audience understand.
So it kind of left me wondering. So, like, do the best Jedi just not get penicillin shots?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. Yeah, maybe that's what it is. They never had penicillin shots as a kid.
I was the only thing in the entire movie that I went, still stupid. Everything else is great.
Yeah, no, it's still stupid. There was one other scene that I thought was kind of, it made me go, what? When they break into the castle and they get captured by the Trade Federation leaders and all the battle droids. And I can't remember exactly what happens, but there's a distraction. Oh, that's right. Padme comes in, or one of the, not Padme, but one of the other headmistresses come in, and they start shooting. And she runs to her recliner that she has in the middle of the room and opens up the armrest and pulls out 2 more blasters.
Yeah.
Obviously, you don't have small children around if you're keeping 2 loaded blasters in your armrest of your.
I
of
like
your
that Padme is ready for a fight anytime.
Exactly. What type of? Does Queen Elizabeth have 2 blasters hidden, in 2 guns held in, like hiding in her?
She might have it in the handbag. She might have a Glock in that handbag. You never know. A Glock with her hairbrush and cements.
I thought that was kind of ridiculous that the Queen has 2 blasters hiding in her recliner.
It makes sense. I mean, again, I could see where this is Leia's mom.
Yeah, true enough. So how about you, passengers? Did you like episode 1? Did you go back and watch it again after listening to us? If you haven't, will you listen to it, watch it again? Let us know what you think of episode 1. Are you a fan? Are you a hater? It seems to be the line is divided, and I think the line, more and more people are beginning to enjoy this movie. I think as time goes on, more and more people are becoming like Jason, and they're appreciating it for what it is. I almost seem to be going the other way.
I want to jump on that real quick, Stan. Passengers, if you're on the fence at all, I really hated this movie to the point where I didn't watch it for 20 years. And having watched it twice last week, I really enjoyed it. It's a Star Wars movie. And I think at the time that was the problem with it, was all the talk of Trade Federation and politics. And like, it didn't feel like Star Wars at the time, but here we are 20 years later, 6 movies after this one. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend watching all of the Clone Wars animated series.
Oh, yeah.
That really turns the prequels around for me. Plus, like, Ahsoka Tano is now my favorite Star Wars character.
Fair enough.
So if you remember hating this movie and you're not going to watch it, you're on the fence, go watch it. Give it a try. This is a fun Star Wars movie.
No, I can't agree more. It really is. It really is. And it's 1/6 of the original trilogy. No, I shouldn't say original trilogy. 1/9 of the movie, of the story.
It's 1/9 of an overall story. Now, in 20 years, I probably won't be as friendly towards The Last Jedi.
You don't think so?
I don't know. We'll have to do this in 20 years and see if
we'll do this 20 years and we'll see what you think of The Last Jedi. It's a date.
Every 20 years on the Star Wars anniversary, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do a detour.
It'd be interesting to see. So let us know. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you watch it? Did you enjoy it? What's going on with in your life with Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace? And with that being said, take it away, Ken.
If you would like to keep the adventure going after the show, be sure to like our Facebook friends page, Grand Circle Tour Magical Ticket Holders. While on Facebook, like our group page, Grand Circle Tour. Be sure to follow us on Twitter, Grand Circle Tour Podcast, as well as Instagram, GCT Podcast, and our YouTube channel, Grand Circle Tour. If you would like to send us a message, you can email us at gctpodcast@gmail.com. T-shirts and other fun merchandise can be found at tpublic.com. Simply search Grand Circle Tour Podcast. If you enjoyed your adventure, leave us a review on Apple Podcast. Only one rule, make it good. Thank you for riding with us, and welcome home.